You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Everybody, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM and wherever you're listening to this worldwide on Nerd to Know Media and the WrestlingRewind.com, where you can find all of our shows for free because I haven't been bothered setting up the Patreon yet, but I will eventually.
What are you doing, Dara? There are thousands of people out there just throwing money at a paywall and it keeps bouncing back at them.
What can I do? I'm the worst capitalist ever, but I will get better. I'll endeavor to be a better capitalist, ladies and gentlemen. That's my promise to you, Martin, as well. But
that. If only so I can violently overthrow you.
Yes, well, we are here, and I have to say, Martin, after last week, while it was a good show, I'm very much happy to be back in the time machine because we had one heck of a show this week. It was super fun. I mean, whenever you get to go back and watch one of these old Raws, it's just unlike anything else. So we've one of the landmark episodes of Raw, which I think doing pay-per-view by pay-per-view, it does kind of show the error of your ways in certain ways, where it's just like you miss these little things. Particularly,
man, we landed almost by accident.
Yeah,
we landed in a golden, like, so we got here by we were kind of between arcs, and you just wanted to pick like something really random as kind of palate cleanser, and you picked this random episode of Sunday Night Heat because it had the Owen Hart Ken Shamrock Lions Den match.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is a 1 hour Sunday Night Heat, and we were suddenly smitten. And now the pair of us are in the middle of genuinely one of the golden ages of wrestling. And
you know, it's like I don't know if you watch Doctor Who or not, but it's kind of like we've done like a wrestling Doctor Who, where, you know, the thing with Doctor Who is he never knows where he's going. He just randomly appears in different time periods. And that's kind of what we've done. Or Quantum Leap, where he doesn't know the jumps. So we've kind of just done that, where we've ended up Doctor Who and into like the golden age of wrestling.
We've kind of done it backwards, where instead of like we're watching modern wrestling and then every so often we dip into the past. Now we're like week to week in the full shove and thrust of like 1999, and every so often we have to come up for air and do like Full Gear or Survivor Series or something.
I think it's much more fun because I'm like, every time we go back, I'm like, I can't wait to find out what happens next when I fully know what happens next. And I'm like, I know where it's building
like,
to. And
oh my God, I did not see that thing that I knew was coming.
Oh man, no, it's just so fun.
It's like when OSW talk about Owen Hart getting Pearl Harbored by Scott Hall from the front. It's like he sees it coming and he still reacts with shock.
I don't know. I was just, you know, consider the fact now it's like there is a funny actually like synchronicity on the way it's laid out on the network, which again, folks, if you don't have the network, I don't know how you're following this, but so, you know, fair play if you're doing it. But on the network, the way they have it lined out, the last episode of Raw for 1999 and this episode and the way this is laid out actually lines up kind of perfectly. It's like a perfect like bookend to the year. But also,
although if you are following this and you don't have the network, please let me know how, because I would love to stop giving WWE $9.99 a month.
But you know what, as well, right? The going through, like, because it's when you open up and you go to Raw, it starts with the most recent thumbnails, you know.
Yeah.
And the show, while it's gotten better, it just doesn't hit the same. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing on there that, you know, or there's one or two things where I'm like, oh, that's intriguing to watch. Like there might be a ladder match or a cage match or something. But
Do you know
like,
what? As much as I dislike them, it's actually not even entirely their fault.
it's not.
There
No,
is
it's not their
there
fault,
is just a wrestling kind of captures a moment in time.
no. Yeah.
So like the what they call the golden era, like the 80s, you know, around Hulkamania and all that, like that can never ever happen again. And it's not because wrestling can't book it to happen again. It's because people and society have changed completely. And the Attitude Era can never happen again. Not because wrestling can't book it to happen again, but because our, as a society, not as individuals, but our responses to those, like those types of antics have changed, you know. So
Yeah.
it's wrestling's very much like almost like a time capsule.
But I mean, like when I'm going through it here, right, and I'm just literally just scrolling up and down. There's very few things that stand out, and you know, actually, here's the thing: you should know me well enough at this point. Guess what? The one thing that stands out to me more than anything else is in modern times.
Oh, in modern times.
In modern times, yeah, the one thing that actually made me stop. There's two of them. If you can guess what one of them is.
Something that made Dara stop in modern times. I'll take a guess and I'll say anything referencing Triple H as Booker.
No, it's something on screen specifically that
On
is
screen.
relatively new. There's two actually, but relatively new.
Relatively new on screen.
Yeah, so an on-screen character.
Oh, in modern WWE.
Yeah.
I'll guess. I don't know. Bailey.
He can't wrestle.
He can't. That's not massively narrowing it down. Go on. I'm never going to guess. Go on.
The Fiend.
The Fiend.
The Fiend. Did we lose him? I think we broke Martin. Martin, did we lose you? Oh, I think he's gone.
Hello?
Martin, did we lose you?
Oh, sorry. I thought you lost me, but no, my bloody cord came out there. Sorry. Here we do. We break there. So what is it about the Fiend? Is it that he's specifically character based, or
I think it's just specifically just the actual visual presentation of this is something unique. You know, I mean, because when you're going through the thumbnails, it's all very sanitized. It's all very similar. Like it all looks the same, you know. But what you just stop and you're like, what the hell's that? You know, it's the same with Finn Balor and the demon gimmick. Like, what the hell's that? You know.
Yeah.
But then when you click to it, like again, you can do this for yourself, right? But then when you go to 1999, right? A lot of Triple H there, so obviously it's great. A lot of Stone Cold there, it's great. The Undertaker, I mean, super weird. You know, it just captures these moments.
But that kind of goes back to every time we do. So
Like, hold on, sorry. One of the moments is literally the Brood coming up out of the fire.
Oh,
like imagine just opening
that's
this. And
still awesome.
Yeah, but
how
imagine,
did they not give that to someone else? That's still awesome.
No, but I mean, imagine you don't know any of this. And look, there's probably people watching this now. I mean, sure, look, CJ in my band, I thought he was a massive wrestling fan, and he is. When he started watching wrestling over the pandemic, he has no idea about this stuff. So imagine
Gotta get that guy in the show.
Oh, absolutely, I'm trying. But imagine just being someone who never experienced this before, and then you open up this, and you're like, "Whoa, look at all these cool things!" Like Val Venis is attacking a casket for some reason. Some young one is being in a black dress is being crucified. I mean, this is a teddy bear's on fire for some reason. I mean, there's just these questions when you're like, what the hell's going on? And you don't get that with modern WWE from the thumbnails. It's like, you're like, oh, okay, there's a cage match.
But that actually goes back to like everything I say every time we review a modern WWE pay-per-view, and you or Dave go, all right, Martin, like overall, what do you think of it? And I'm like, all right, well, like I have to preface it by saying that I just don't like the modern presentation. It is too clean, it is too shiny, it is too sanitized, it is too overly produced, it is too colorful. There's nothing gritty or unexpected about it. Whereas you go back to 1999 and like you say, those thumbnails it's a smorgasbord of just wild different things going on and crowds that are going absolutely nuts. And so one of the notes I have in this show is it caught me off guard. Double J came out, Jeff Jarrett came out, and the pop when he came out was huge. And it didn't make me think that Jeff Jarrett was over. It made me realize, my God, everyone in this era is over. Like everyone's massively over.
Everybody's
so
over.
I kind of know what. I kind of know what you mean.
You know, and it's just it's weird because it only kind of hit me going back because I don't want to watch any of that Raw again. You know, any of the modern ones. I'm like, there's nothing that could compel me enough. And yeah, okay, fair enough. Could be nostalgia. It probably is. But then I'm like, no. I mean, this show, genuinely, that we're going to cover now, it's a random episode of Raw.
Yeah.
And it's just entertaining. You know.
There might be in the past couple of years, maybe modern WWE pay-per-views that you go back and watch.
Yes,
I'm sure at
yeah.
some stage in the future you'll go back and watch like WrestleMania with Stone Cold again or
probably,
whatever. But no way in hell at any stage in the past 10 years is anyone going back to watch going, oh God, do you remember that episode of Raw? Like it just doesn't have the iconic moments that it used to. Like, do you remember we were watching it the other week and we were, because we weren't expecting it, we didn't even realize that this was that episode where McMahon and Stone Cold come face to face and he's screaming at him in the corner of the ring.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have that stuff. Raw's just this thing that trudges along until you get to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's very strange. It's a very kind of strange way to set it up. And I think for anyone who hasn't done that, and again, if it's just your first show, welcome. I'm sorry. But like if you're new to it, like I would recommend, you know, if you're a WWE fan, you absolutely have a network subscription. Go back and just kind of do that. Even just picture it, and you can kind of see I'm going to do it here in real time. You can kind of see the fall for when it starts losing the kind of gravitas. Like 2000 again is just unbelievable. You know, 2001, you know, starting to see the fall off, but I mean, still, it's just these moments that are, you know, iconic. And then once you get into 2002, like you start getting some filler. You know, late 2001, 2000, you start getting some filler. But like the return of Shawn Michaels and that, and then the wheels kind of fall off. You know, it starts looking very, very similar, and it kind of has that holding pattern for years. But 1999 is a very special time.
Well, we just reviewed St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which is like not a bad show, but it's a fairly mid-level B, not mid-level. It's a B pay-per-view. It's not one of the big ones.
Mm.
And for me, it rivals anything they've put out this year.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely,
anything.
Absolutely, definitely has more star power anyway.
More. It's not even the star power. I mean, that's part of it, but it's just more. There's a sense that the big things on the show matter. They're momentous, and like the match between Austin and Mr. McMahon. It's not a great technical wrestling match. There's no great wrestling going on in it, but the story has been built so well. The crowd is so hot, and the action is so visceral. Like I take it what happened was they went out there and they knew, look, we're not going to be able to put on a convincing wrestling match here. So what we're going to do is batter each other, and then every so often in between battering each other, we're going to pull out like a massive stunt, like a huge spot, and it worked amazingly well. And that's like a not even a pay-per-view that they've ever revisited again.
No.
Yeah,
it was a one-time only kind of throwaway thing. But I mean, that I think because the pay-per-views and the stories all kind of fed into each other, and they all told the story. It wasn't about the show so much; it was about the story. Whereas now, and actually, it's something we are going to get to. And full disclosure here, WrestleMania 1989 is pretty terrible. Genuinely, it's real bad. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but it's really bad.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to it because I was worried it was going to be. I thought we were coming up to X17.
No, that's 2 years away.
Yeah. So, and I was like, like it'd be nice to review because obviously it's like one of the best WrestleManias ever, but at the same time, kind of boring because I've seen it so much, and I'm sure everybody who listens to the show has seen it so much. And now that I've realised that that's not the one we're heading towards, we've been excited.
No, we're barreling towards the one where Butterbean knocks out Bart Gunn in like a second.
So, 15.
15, yeah. They actually start bringing it up on this show as well. I'm like, oh, this is a bad show.
They do.
They do.
You know what? Separately, and again, and we'll move on. But one final note on St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Do you know what I think Tony Khan should do?
What, buy the rights to it?
I think he should copyright St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
You know what?
Because I wonder, has it lapsed? I wonder have to let it go in the last 25 years.
Probably. Actually, I'm going to see if the domain is actually for sale. Then I'm going to buy it.
And sell it to Tony.
He'll
be our first Patreon contributor.
Let's see. Got to be professional here and research on air. That's it. Oh man. So
while Dara's doing that research, we'll kill some of the dead air by just talking about something I was going to save until the end of the show for my. Do you know whenever you say, "Oh, Martin, have you anything you want to plug?" Well, I woke up this morning about 5 a.m., which be fairly unusual for me, but my body must have known something momentous was happening.
Oh my god, it's for sale, but it costs €2,000. Tony, you can have it. It's too rich for my blood.
Holy hell!
Yeah, it's a premium domain, which means someone owns it still. But it is up for sale, so that means WWE might actually still have rights to it.
But €2,000, that seems really cheap for a.
Well, usually domains are like only a couple of bucks, you know. But we can do a bit of magic and see who owns it. See, and this is totally legal, by the way, guys. It really is. It's all public.
Tell you what, folks. If ever there was a reason to subscribe to our Patreon, if we get €2,000 on the Patreon over the next week, we will buy the St. Valentine's Day Massacre domain. And we
oh my god!
Make a business case, and we will head to Tony Khan.
Oh, okay. Someone in Arizona, Warner. Oh, okay. So all I can find out is Arizona may own it. So whoever is quanted there. So someone in Arizona owns this one. So we'd have to buy it off them.
I wonder, is this not even anyone connected to WWE?
I think it's just some random person, maybe.
Yeah, is it like a really enterprising person?
Like literally what I was going to do. Someone just beat me to it.
Yeah. So there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but you know 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, he went in, and as soon as before they that's actually, so that story is someone bought like a bunch of Batman domains and it's sold them back to them. Yeah, and
one of the domains he bought was, as we got to the end of the 20th century, he bought the domain for 21st Century Fox.
No way.
And they went looking because they weren't going to change their name, but what they wanted to do was newer movies and that they wanted to sort of create a side company and call it 21st Century Fox. And they ended up having to pay this guy massive money for the domain. And all he did was like spend like you say, like $20-30
Yeah.
on.
So the thing I was just going to do is called domain jacking, where you just buy the domain and sit on it. And yeah, that's obviously what that guy's doing. So at the moment, it's going quite well for him. But yeah, I mean, that's what, if you ever want to know what's coming up soon, look for the domains that have been purchased recently, because it's all public, like it's all fully legit. Like you can see who owns what, and and that's why any games or movies that come out, they'll be like Batman versus Superman the movie, Batman Superman Returns, Batman Superman DC, Batman. They're just all the possible domains they could do, which is why it's funny when the right censor domain went out and you could just buy it, because I mean that shouldn't happen.
But I would say to all our listeners, that doesn't mean you can go out and buy Wrestling Rewind /Patreon. Dara's going to set that up really soon. So,
well, that would be silly because domains. Patreon is a different website. But see, the trick.
I'm not as tech savvy as you. I'm only trying to make jokes.
The trick, ladies and gentlemen, is when you buy a domain, you set up a domain protection, so you can't be bought off the domain. It just auto renews, and most companies do. This is what we need to get sponsored by like a domain company. I'm gonna try set that up. Or if someone's listening who owns a domain company, we'll gladly shill for you, because why not? I'm never going to set up that Patreon because I couldn't be bothered, but we will do it eventually.
We should check if Trump 2024.
Oh yeah, that's been bought ages ago.
Has it?
Yeah. No, I mean,
when's the next Irish presidential election?
25, is it?
25, is it? Oh my God, we should buy Jerry Adams 2025.
No, we could buy the official ones and just get them all through route to the Wrestling Rewind.
Jarrett 2025.
That'd be amazing. Stone Cold 2025. Austin versus McMahon 2025. Be amazing.
No, man,
anyway,
at least make it realistic. Bit Finlay 2025.
Oh man. Anyway, going back to why we're here.
Yeah, sorry, we got wild sidetracked.
We did get wild, but this is why the people listen. We appreciate you folks, really.
It is. They listen because they don't want to hear about the show. They just want to hear about random musings on
nonsense,
on wild tangents.
No, it's wild tangents with a side of wrestling.
With a touch, yeah, it's rambling nonsense with just a sprinkling, just a whisper, a rumor of wrestling.
That's 20 years old. Oh man, what are we doing? Anyway, so folks, I hope you appreciate how domains work. It's fun. It's a fun topic, and that's how you do it. So there you go. And you got some real life examples of domains in general. So there we go. We're educational, if nothing else, Martin. Educational.
Jerry Adams 2025.
Do not support or condone this. This is Martin's own opinions, ladies and gentlemen.
Jarrett doesn't support or condone this. The Wrestling Rewind PLC fully supports and condones.
It doesn't.
And furthermore, Phoenix FM would like to endorse this.
Oh my God, that's been edited out. Okay. Oh well, you just now I have to edit so much. Thank you.
Sorry.
Anyway, and that's why you listen to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, because that kind of stuff is left in where it can't be left in on the radio. All right, so okay, February the 15th. So this has been like the weirdest week of my life, Martin, watching wrestling, right? Where it's like the same week has happened. So I didn't realize when we were watching that episode of Heat that there was going to be a Saturday Night Raw and then a Sunday Night Heat and then a pay-per-view. It's been like four days spread out over 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
It actually has, yeah, for us.
And it's so bizarre. You're like, how are they still on this month? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, it's
McMahon's coming out with like a neck brace, but to us it's like, Jesus, Vince, should that happen a fortnight ago? Would you ever get over yourself?
Get over it. Those cuts should have healed. What are you doing? You know? But yeah, I mean, it's weird because we didn't cop initially, and again, this is because the way they recorded it. Some of it was live, some wasn't live. That episode of Raw wasn't on a Monday; it was actually on a Sunday. Well, it was broadcast on a Sunday, and broadcast on a Saturday, and then the Heat was on a Sunday, and the pay-per-view was on a Sunday, and then this was obviously was on Monday Night Raw after pay-per-view. So they've been in Alabama for a while as well. So it's just like, okay, fair enough. Well, sorry, not they weren't in Alabama for. They've been in the South for a while because obviously the pay per view was in Tennessee, so they've been in the South for a little while.
Wait,
So this,
I don't know, like I don't know if that's right because I was looking in the audience star and none of them were particularly attractive. I mean, honestly, you're the only 10 I see.
oh my God. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Subscribe to our Patreon.
That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Nerd to Know Media is the one, but everyone doesn't specifically. I'll get onto it. I will put it on my to-do list. Anyway, so this came from Birmingham, Alabama. It was in Jefferson Civic Center and was on the 15th of February, 1999.
15th of February, day after Valentine's Day.
It was.
Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people were sitting down to watch this match, not realizing that they were newly pregnant.
And 2 days after the last episode of
You're just going to breeze over that?
I knew that's where you were going. I just...
All right, go on.
So your commentators for the night were Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole. Ring announcer Tony Chimmel, which, you know, it's kind of... You forget Tony Chimmel was as active as he was. In my head, I always think of...
And...
Sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. In your head, you think of who?
The Fink. The Fink doing ring
but
announcer.
It's hard. It's impossible not to think of.
But see, it because I haven't gone back and watched these episodes in a long since they've been on. In my memory, it is the Fink. So it's kind of weird to see Tony Chimmel out there, but I'm like, oh, that makes way more sense because the Fink was getting old even then. Like,
it's weird for me to see to watch these shows and see Michael Cole and not want to climb into the television and strangle him.
Well, I mean, he's getting better now. With 6 months, he's rehabbed his entire image. But yeah, I mean, for a long time, Michael.
Oh yeah,
he actually isn't bad.
But back then, yeah, I
He's
have no issue. 1999, Michael Cole, absolutely no issue with him.
Yeah, I mean, like, he wasn't a patch on JR, obviously, but like,
No, of course not. But
and also Jerry the King Lawler as well. Like, yeah, he says some horrendous things. He really does. But at the same time, you're also like, wow, you're really a heel. Like, you're very easy to hate.
I think I've been ever since we did our 2000 WCW. I think I've been just completely desensitized to Jerry. Like, Jerry Lawler's going, oh my God, puppies. And I'm sitting, oh, that's kind of sweet. That's like,
but that's
naive and innocent. It's not like in WCW where they were like aggressively frothing and screaming at women. It was just...
Well, I mean, look, the thing about it is we've been desensitized to that because, I mean, obviously that was nothing will top that. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just...
Oh man, it was like, and I am a child of the 90s. I've been through the Extreme era and all that stuff. My God, some of the WCW stuff we listened to even shocked me.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you think we're joking, this is a bit. It's not like we've covered all the pay-per-views are up on. They're all free on Spotify or wherever you get the shows. And yeah, man, I mean, Jesus, like,
yeah.
but
I'm trying to think of an example I can give.
No, don't.
You won't have to edit it.
No, I'll have to edit it out. Please don't. I tell you what, I'm gonna have to edit show anyway. Give an example.
Major Guns. Do you remember all the stuff that came out about Major Guns? So Major Guns would come down to the ring, and so she was a wrestler with the wasn't the new
Misfits.
Yes, the Misfits in action. So she'd come down in her like camouflage gear, but her camouflage gear was basically like a push-up bra, and like so her whole thing was, I mean, basically her whole thing was that she had big tits, and that's fine. Like, it's grand to have big tits. I myself have an ample set, so. But she would come down to the ring, and that is like literally all they would ever say. But it wasn't anything like Jerry Lawler, like his kind of like leering old man, but almost kind of endearing thing.
Mm.
Puppies, puppies. It was like she'd be in the ring and she'd be doing something that was really integral to the storyline. Like she'd be betraying someone, or she'd be like attacking someone with a weapon. And like instead of setting up the storyline, the WCW commentators would be going, "Look at them big knockers just slapping around the place." What?
Or just making grunting as going.
Like, oh my, that's worse than the words. Worse than the words.
That was worse
Major Guns would come in and she'd pin someone, and instead of them talking about the ramifications of the pin, well, I can't remember his name, but he was a guest commentator. He was only there for 3 or 4 months, but Major Guns would come in and she'd pin someone, and the next thing, the only thing you'd hear over the commentator desk would be, "Oh!" I'd be sitting watching it going, "Oh!" I'd have to pause it and go take a shower.
Oh my god, it's so true. Oh, and there's nothing like the feeling when you're watching it and you're like, I'm so uncomfortable. It's actually ridiculous. Like,
and the worst thing is that every so often, like, so WCW back in the day would do something cool every so often, and I'd shout, so I'd be watching them here, like for the show, and then I'd shout into my girlfriend, I go, Hannah, come in, we see, this is class, and then it'd be like, oh, thingy getting thrown off the Vampiro getting thrown off the scaffold, and she'd be like, oh wow, that is cool, class, and then she'd sit there,
oh no,
and then the next part of the show would start, and suddenly it would be, oh my God, Stacy Keibler's pregnant, but she's been thrown off the stage. And even though she was only thrown off the stage 15 seconds ago, we've just been told that she's lost a baby. And Hannah would be looking at me going, what the hell is this?
You can't defend it. You're like,
is this what you do? Is this what you think of women? It's like, no, it's not. It's not.
I didn't write it.
And then I'd be trying to tell her how much I really love and respect women, and the next thing all you hear be like, Mother God.
Oh,
so
man.
Traumatized by WCW. We're talking about 1999 Raw, and I still can't get WCW out of my head.
No, because it's so like, yeah, Jerry Lawler is like, he says some pretty manky stuff about Ryan Shamrock on the show,
do you know,
and it still isn't as bad as the stuff that was said on WCW.
Do you know what Jerry Lawler in 1999 reminds me of? And it's only because it's compared to WCW. Have you ever seen that episode of Peep Show where Mark talks about how he was in the Boy Scouts as a child, and now he'd love to be a Boy Scout leader?
No. So
Mark is talking to Jerry. You're familiar with Peep Show, are you?
I am.
Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark is talking to Jeremy. He's telling him, Jeremy's going, oh, like, if you had like no money worries, what would you do? And Mark goes, oh, I'd love to be like a Boy Scout leader. And Jeremy gives him this look, and Mark says, Jeremy, you do not have to be a pedo to want to work with kids, right? And then Jeremy says, yeah, but you told me Old Man Johnson back when you were in the Boy Scouts was a pedo. And Mark goes, yes, but it was old-fashioned pedoing. You know, it was kind of like giving you a boost over the fence when you didn't need one, or making you do PE in your underwear. It was old school pedoing before it got such a bad name. So Jerry Lawler to me is old school pedoing, and WCW is modern frothing at the mouth, blacked out windows in a van pedoing.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to edit that out so badly. But it's incredible. There's
no swear words in there.
That's totally okay before the
people of Phoenix FM need to know my views on Jerry Lawler and pedoing, entirely separate from the court case he was involved in.
Oh my God. All right. Oh well, that's fair description. I mean, it chalks up the you know, I feel like, have you seen Alex Jones on Kanye West, that interview. Have you seen her interview?
Oh my god!
Where he's trying to like calm it down from the mad stuff he's saying. That's kind of what I feel like. Oh god, that's so funny. Anyway,
we haven't even gotten past the first segment of
we
Raw.
haven't for 34 minutes in.
All right, let's go.
So Debra and Jeff Jarrett come out to a massive reaction. Debra's wearing very little.
Whoa.
Ivory is also wearing very little. D'Lo Brown comes out. The match isn't really a match. It's to set up a cat fight that happened last night during the title defense. The cat fight is the word used by Michael Cole, not by me. The match ends in a double DQ, and it's the first real example of a mixed tag team match that I can think about that doesn't involve Chyna. So it is pretty interesting in that sense. But the commentary was, Jerry Lawler was kind of losing his mind a little bit. Yeah. And I was annoyed that Jeff Jarrett didn't really do that much, and there was no guitars. But they did reference the guitar.
Whoa.
Reference the guitar the night before.
Are you watching this on fast forward?
No, I'm saying there's no guitar in to end the match. It was after the match. It wasn't actually part of the match. Because the night before they had used the guitar to get the win, and this ended in DQ, and then the guitar was brought out. So it shook up the form a little bit.
Well, I tell you what. So it generally, when it comes,
that's usually Double J matches go like actually. Well, no, modern Double J matches end that way now, where the guitar sets up the end. Only around this time was the guitar.
Isn't it mad that in 2022 we can talk about modern Double J matches?
No, but it's funny because I was waiting for when the guitars came in. They only recently started coming in like this month. So February 1999 is when he started doing it. So we're starting to see him kind of figuring out how it works, and then it goes out.
It was more of a WCW thing, yeah.
Yeah, but that's when he lost control of himself completely. You can still see he has some kind of tact here to only use it every now and then, and at the end of matches. Not every minute he comes out and smashing all the guitars. I mean, they must have had some lad on speed dial.
But I tell you what,
400 guitars.
So like all Raw matches that aren't main events, this was kind of nothing.
2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it was kind of nothing. But what I will say is, and this is not something you often got from the women of the era, Debra absolutely walloped Ivory with that guitar.
Yes.
And I mean, this was no Hulk Hogan, tapping Sting on the head with the chair, as if he was trying to only injure a mosquito on his head. She walloped Ivory with the guitar, and I was really impressed with that.
You never see it.
No,
you never see it. I mean, I'm trying to think.
Not women's wrestling of that time. Like nowadays, they'll absolutely batter each other. But back in that time, a lot of hair pulling, a lot of falling around. But when it came time to doing anything
around.
Yeah, but when it came time to doing anything with any impact, they'd really, really pull their punches. I don't know if Debra was just trying to sell the angle or if she had some actual issue with Ivory, but she winds up and she blasts her with that guitar.
Well, I think Ivory actually was a legit wrestler from the get-go. She was actually a legit wrestler. So, I mean, it wasn't like she, didn't know what she was doing. Debra was actually, and she was in WCW. So, I mean, they both were wrestlers to an extent. Ivory had a much better wrestling career.
Who was Debra in WCW?
She was Debra McMichael, the wife of Steve McMichael.
Steve Mongo.
Yep. And she was known as the queen of WCW. But she wasn't really a wrestler per se. She was more just kind of like a properly a manager. Whereas Ivory was in actually a few territories actually before, and then her main thing was Glow, so she's on Glow for ages. So I mean, it was probably a case of she knew she could take it,
Yeah. Or maybe Ivory beforehand had said,
it was actually hit me.
Don't Don't be tapping me with this. Like,
Yeah,
lay it in.
yeah, and I, you know, knowing what I've known about Ivory, she does seem like that kind of girl where she's like, no, actually hit me, you know. So I think that was kind of what happened there, and you would get flares of that in the Attitude Era. But yeah, you're right. I mean, 9 times out of 10, the women were like, no, they're not going to do anything. You know, it'd be as if falling around, slap fights and all that kind of stuff. Which, and I mean, tarnished the division for years. But so much that the belt actually disappears after 2001 for like 7 or 8 years.
Not the first time that's happened in WWE before, where they've different eras, so they've had women's champions and the belt just disappeared. But yes, absolutely, this was fantastic.
So a really cool way to open again. It was funny because I mean, like everyone was over here, you know. The pop that he got was similar to like the only one who got a bigger pop was Austin.
Yeah. Now, so here's the thing. Everybody's over. And I actually have a note on this later when they have the confrontation between Austin and Mankind. And like Mankind's probably the third most over person in the company, but there is a noticeable difference between the Mankind pop and the Austin pop. Like the Austin pop is
out of this world. So the show opens up. We probably should have talked about the show opening first. The show opens up with HBK coming out, which I mean is weird because HBK was going through his weird phase, where he lost a smile.
Weird phase. From
he
1995 till.
No, where like he had retired, but not really. He was claiming a back injury, and you know he was gone for ages, and they were all, you know, he would periodically show up in WWE, and I mean,
you mean his not wanting to drop the belt to Brett phase?
Well, I mean, you know, so at this point he was the commissioner, which we've already seen him. You know, I mean, imagine working this not in kayfabe. Imagine working this in reality, where it's like, I don't even know how they shot this. You know, it's such a weird way they had this laid out, where he randomly shows up on Heat and then is on Raw. You know, it's weird. But anyway, he couldn't install a video link, so maybe he just wanted to like visit Alabama. Why not? So he comes out anyway, cuts a promo and invites out Austin because this is the first time we've really heard the road to WrestleMania. I think it's the first time the road to WrestleMania was used as well. Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But no, you're absolutely right, because everything before this was all St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and now they are full tilt WrestleMania. Yeah,
so they bring out Austin, and then they bring out Mankind. And as you said, the pop for Mankind is significantly less than Austin. But of course, I mean, and the thing about it is, even though we know Austin and The Rock is going to happen, you don't buy Mankind's going to WrestleMania. You don't buy it. I mean, no. I don't know what you thought, but I didn't buy it.
Huge Mankind guy, like.
Oh, same. Just did not buy it. Did not buy it for a moment. The Rock comes out then, cuts a promo. Sorry. Mankind comes out. He says he's in bits, which you can tell he is in bits.
Yeah.
The McMahon comes out and he's like, "Oh, you know, congratulations, blah 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 blah." Bates, Austin, and Mankind kind of against each other, but not really, because you can kind of tell the three lads in the ring are on the same side. The Rock then is brought out after debating. And basically what happens is there is a match between Mankind and The Rock where Shawn Michaels is tasked with making a match that has a definitive end, because last night, obviously, the match didn't have a definitive end. So he's like, hey, why don't you make the match you're famous for, which is very weird to hear, you know, because everyone now assumes ladder matches are the Hardy Boys, etc. And so it's a ladder match. Yeah. Now, Mankind's never been in a ladder match. Rock has been in a ladder match with Triple H a year prior, so he has a bit of experience with it. And the match is made for the main event later on that night, where it's going to be Mankind versus The Rock for the WWE title. But also, the Big Show is announced for this as a special guest referee for WrestleMania.
WrestleMania, yeah.
So
still called Paul White, not quite the Big Show yet.
And using the weirdest theme music I've ever heard.
What was he? I thought is he just using the ministry, not corporation, or what's?
No, he's using something weird.
Oh. How much for us there?
No, I'm gonna just make sure I'm not wrong on this. Make sure I'm not wrong on this. I didn't imagine it. Hold on.
How much for us there? No,
I did imagine it. I'm gonna chalk that up as a fever dream. Yeah, no, that's fair. He was using the corporation music, but what was weird about that was I was expecting Shane to walk out.
Jarrett was gonna go, well, it's the corporation.
That would have worked. That would have worked too. Also, Michael Cole is pre frosted tips, so he doesn't have frosted tips at this point. We will.
You're going to say pre-op.
No, we will see his frosted tips at some point. And The Rock will make fun of him horrendously about it, but we're not there yet.
Proper order.
Proper order. So okay, after that, the match we just announced was on. Then DX came out. Here's a weird thing I noticed about DX, and I don't think I've like really remembered it this way. DX was all over these shows
constantly. Yeah, I mean they were.
I don't remember
popular,
this.
like.
Yeah, but I don't remember this. For me, DX were much more self-contained for some reason. And now when I'm going back, I'm like, no, they were like just as over the show as the NWO.
I think it's because, so I've noticed the pattern of what would happen is DX would come out and do a promo, you know, and they do their whole shtick and they do the suck it thing. And then that would be to announce a match later in the show. So in this case, it was with Kane and supposedly Chyna, but yeah, that changed later on in the evening. But so I think that's what it was, that they had this formula where rather than like DX wouldn't be a constant thread through the show, what would happen is in the first hour they'd come out and they'd do their whole DX shtick and announce their match, and in the second half they'd have their match. Yeah,
I think it's much more refreshing because with the and even still Billy Gunn comes out right after them, not with them. He comes out and he does his own. Oh, you didn't know, and I'm kind of glad they didn't fully commit to that because he just doesn't carry it.
Another thing I noticed was, I don't know if this must be just the network, but they censored or bleeped out Triple H calling Kane.
Yeah,
the big red.
Yeah, he calls him it like 3 or 4 times, and it's like
I don't want to give you more editing work, so I won't.
Yeah, no, I mean I can't believe that. Like the editing in this is, you know, it makes sense sometimes, but they do aggressively edit, like obviously where commercials and stuff were, and some of it's really jarring. So I can we're obviously watching the 1 hour 39-minute version on the network, so I'd imagine there were stuff that was probably cut that was like, holy hell, we can't have this on here. But having your current top booker, all effectively main guy, using that word over and over again, I totally see why they had to cut it, you know, because you're just like, you can't, you know, you just can't. And he's probably sitting there going, oh man, what am I doing? Why did I agree to this, you know?
WWE's probably thinking, it's like, oh, all right, look, we got rid of Vince, so that's all the controversy. That's all the controversy over.
All the controversy's gone, and then
someone's going to email them like an old VHS of just highlights of the DX era.
Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine? So Billy Gunn comes out, has a match. We're going to use that term. We're going to use that word very loosely.
This is the X-rated Intercontinental match.
Yes, with Val Venis, which Ryan Shamrock defeats Billy Gunn to retain the WWF Intercontinental Championship in 2.5 minutes.
Let's not forget, and so obviously this changes afterwards, but let's not forget, before this match is over, the storyline is still that Val Venis is a porn star.
Yes.
Who is in a consensual, monogamous relationship with Ken Shamrock's sister.
So, that's the story. And then what happens is Ryan Shamrock gets knocked off the ring apron. Or she interferes, kind of, sort of. Not really enough to get disqualified, because obviously the qualifications matter in this athletic contest of 2.5 minutes.
Oh, this is... The whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking, how is this going to affect the rankings?
So then what happens is Ryan Shamrock gets involved and she gets knocked off the ring. Obviously causing the distraction. Val Venis picks up the win. And then Val Venis breaks up with Ryan Shamrock in the ring. And then we cut the commercial. To come back from commercial, Billy Gunn is trying to console Ryan Shamrock. Ken Shamrock then attacks him, and we go to our next segment. Our next segment is the Ministry come out, and it's actually a pretty cool segment. They're trying to figure out what happened to the Big Boss Man. Paul Bearer cuts a little promo. The Undertaker probably talks about how he's going to take over the WWE one day, and then we have the big boss Bookley comes out.
Oh!
I have that in my notes. Big Boss Bookley. That's what we're going to call him from now on. He comes out and he challenged. And I mean, he cuts the funniest promo ever. Like, I mean, I love him, but he shouldn't have said anything because it doesn't work. So he's there trying to giving it to the Undertaker, and if this eventually would set up something to happen, there's lots of seeds here at WrestleMania that do pay off at WrestleMania. So I'm not going to get into them, but I know what happens at WrestleMania. And this obviously explains why what happens because it is the Bossman versus the Ministry. That is the story that they're trying to tell here.
Yeah.
And then after that, so then they set up a match that's going to be the corporation. What's it? 3 of my boys versus 3 of yours, and that's the way they put it. So that's what we're going to have later on the night. So then we have Shane McMahon, X-Punk with his X-Punk jersey, going for the European title in a tag match, which is Russo-rific all over it. Against Triple H and X-Pac. So what happens? Well, they come out to the ring, and again, big plug for WrestleMania. And there's a schmoz. It's like 4 minutes. Chyna basically costs
A lot of Chyna involvement in this.
a lot of Chyna involvement in this. Yeah,
Like
you
say, even for 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's basically the Chyna show. It's to get her over. That's the whole point. A lot of this will make sense in the middle of the year. They do stuff that makes way more sense in the middle of the year. But basically, she is difference maker here, and that's what causes Shane to win the European title, right? I think it's it was Shane McMahon's first championship. I think this is his first match in the ring, if not a second match. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a great showing, but I think it's his first or second match. I'm not really too sure which one it is.
What's your overall, considering like not just this, consider the whole career. What's your overall take on Shane in the ring?
Before he came back or after?
Your overall.
I would say before he left, he was probably one of the greatest stuntmen of all time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Someone who just got it so quickly, did incredible things, left a really good legacy, and someone who you always wanted to come back. Then he came back.
It's just an awful lot like his dad.
Yeah.
Created a tremendous legacy and then destroyed it.
Yeah. And when he came back, he threw it all away with both hands. And that's honestly how I feel. Because I mean, for you, I mean, look, when I do eventually upload the archive of, you can listen to me and Gary going, Shane was great. Yeah, it'd be cool if he came back 5 or 6 years before he came back. When it still would have been okay, and then it just never really reached out. Like there were 1 or 2 moments when he came back, which were alright. But even when he was doing the stuff in 2006, it was still, it was not good.
I think the thing with him was that he was never actually that great. It wasn't terrible. He's never actually that great in the ring, but he was willing to do like serious stunts. And
I mean, he had some pretty good matches in certain respects. Like never belt classics, but like.
But I would say that the matches he had that were in them, like stunts aside, that were in themselves good matches, were with excellent wrestlers. So you're talking about Undertaker, you're talking about Kurt Angle, you're talking about AJ Styles.
Yeah. Well,
lads, true. Lads, you could have good matches with me.
Yeah. No, that's fair. It's it's kind of sad to see, but we won't be touching that part of his career. So we're going to see like his early days, where I think X-Pac is his first real feud. And the thing about it is, X-Pac is that gateway guy. So that's probably a way to give him to him, because it's like, hey, go have a match with X-Pac and see how you do. And that's probably why they did it, to be like, okay, if you can have a good series with X-Pac, you'll actually be able to go into the ring. So I mean, it makes way more sense when you're looking at this 20 years removed and how they were using people on the card. So after that, and the match wasn't great, to be fair, it really wasn't. It was just to set up the WrestleMania match and to get the belt off X-Pac.
It was a Raw match. I mean, like it's not like this was the bad match on the card.
No, it wasn't a bad match at all. It was just
none of the matches are, like you say, apart from the main event.
But what was hilarious was afterwards when they did the backstage thing, and he was congratulating Triple H on the win. He's like, congratulations, Triple H, and he's like, no, you. And he goes, oh, did I? Just because he's so out of it. It was so funny. And I mean, that's the charm that you just don't get nowadays on any show, where it's like they don't take themselves seriously when they don't have to, and it's just kind of fun. And that's immediately followed up by Bob Holly, who takes himself way too seriously. And his whole thing is he's incredible.
That is what's fun about him.
Yeah, no, I mean the way they set this up is just really funny, because you have Shane, who's a goofball, and Bob Holly, who's rebelling against being a goofball. His whole storyline is being not want to be known as Sparky Plug. And then at the same time you have Jerry King Lawler, who constantly calls him that to get over the point that he was it, and you're like, man, he will kill you if you listen. And it's kind of this fun thing where, like, it just doesn't match what's on the screen, and it kind of adds to it. But Steve Blackman just came back from injury, so this was his first real run in the company. He was supposed to be in the company 2 years beforehand, but he actually went through a severe injury, and also I think it was diverticulitis. So he literally couldn't do anything. So this is his first real kind of run with the WWE. So we'll see what happens. And I love Steve Blackman. I think he's great, but this match did not last very long. It was 2 minutes and 2 minutes 50 seconds. It didn't even get to the ring. It went straight to the back and then went outside. And it wasn't a good hardcore match, but it did its job.
I'll tell you what me thoughts on it were. Yeah, it was fairly, in terms of the match itself, it was fairly generic hardcore fare. What I did take from it was that it was a match on Raw,
yes,
like the flagship show. That after it, Bob Holly came back and had a promo to the mic, and that after the promo to the mic, they set up another storyline. And what got me with it was that here's the hardcore title that has had a match on Raw, a promo, and a storyline.
Yes.
Like, that is a lot more than the hardcore title would get sort of in the preceding years, and it's a hell of a lot more than the likes of the 24/7 title, or even into the 2010s the likes of the Intercontinental or US title would get.
But it even set up a future program and would tie back to something else that
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5pm to 6pm, and then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media radio network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
The preceding years, and it's a hell of a lot more than the likes of the 24/7 title, or even into the 2010s the likes of the Intercontinental or US title would get.
But it even set up a future program and would tie back to something else that happened. So if you guys aren't familiar with
the
Bob
goddamn
Holly, so Bart Gunn comes. And actually, they kind of dropped the ball on this initially because I think Jerry Lawler makes jokes about Brawl for All. And I was like, that's
literally going to say.
Did you get to catch that too? It was like a fleeting second.
We need to cover the Brawl for All at some stage.
We will. We'll cover the Brawl for All.
One of our palate cleansers between episodes. We need to cover the Brawl for All.
We'll absolutely do that. We'll do it over Christmas as a Christmas special.
Oh,
we'll do it over. That'll be our Christmas present to everybody. We'll do Brawl for All over Christmas.
Dara Claus.
There you go. I try. But yeah, I mean, they drop it like randomly, right? And I'm like, that's a weird thing to bring up out of nowhere. Nobody brings that up anymore. And then I'm like, oh my god, that was so smart. Because what happens is, so Bob Holly was in a tag team called the New Midnight Express with Bart Gunn, right? It wasn't good. It was pretty terrible, actually.
But it was in that it was unique in it being terrible because it's one of the only tag teams ever that's been called the new something that hasn't succeeded.
It even had Jim Cornette though, so they did try.
Oh yeah,
They did try tennis racket and everything.
What? Jim Cornette and it didn't work?
Yeah. So basically, what happened is he's like, "Look, I've been here since blah blah blah, and they've always given me terrible gimmick and lame tag team partners." And then out walks, but that's where the weird music came from. It was Bart Gunn using the Brawl for All music, and he goes, "Oh, I don't know who you're talking about. I'm the only one that did that. You could knock out in your Brawl for All. Remember, Bart Gunn legit shoot one Brawl for All." And he wasn't supposed to. Dr. Death Steve Williams was supposed to win it. We are actually, so again, guys, in 2 weeks, we're going to cover the entire Brawl for All from start to finish. So hold that thought while we do it. So out walks Sable next, and Sable cuts a big old heel promo. So she turned heel at everybody, and everyone's like, "What's going on? Why isn't she being all nice?" And then we go to the corporation versus.
Oh no, hold on. I would like to discuss this Sable promo.
Okay.
So Sable came out in a very revealing, frankly sensational outfit. A lot of strategically placed straps and lanes that just about covered the business. They also happened to, like, I'm sure this wasn't in the script, that it just kind of accidentally slipped out, revealed that Sable that week would be in Playboy.
Yes.
And obviously, as a devoted journalist and representative of the podcast, I looked that up just to give it a solid review. Now, here's what I want to know from you, Dara. So Sable, not a great wrestler.
No.
And in this promo, she says, "That's right, Kevin," 3 times. So he will say, like, so she obviously can't remember the promo. So what happened is he's lining her up for something. So he'll go, "Hey, Sable, I hear you are setting up for your next match." So, "That's right, Kevin." And I hear you're going to be a Playboy. "That's right, Kevin." So she does this "that's right, Kevin" thing. So not a great wrestler, not a great promo. In your opinion, Dara, why is it that she gets so much TV time?
Because she was incredibly over, and she's a product of her time.
Of her time or of her chest?
She is a product of her time. And it's very obvious.
All right. Well, I tried to put you in the corner there, and you weren't.
No,
you weren't for being trapped.
No,
but,
no.
Jarrett is holding on notions of running for office in the future, so he's not gonna have anything on record that'll incriminate him.
The thing about it is there probably is enough audio to like make a really good deep fake of me, though. To be fair, like 10 years of audio. So I mean, they try hard enough. But they did notice Butterbean here.
They did,
and that's another subtle reference to Brawl for All that would be said later on. So I mean,
which we are going to call Jingle Brawls.
That's really good, actually. Yeah, Jingle Brawl.
Jingle Brawl. All right.
Oh my god.
The Ministry and the corporation.
So the lads come out. The big boss Bookley, Ken Shamrock, and the Punisher, and Andrew Martin. That was literally a gimmick he used when I saw him. It was real bad. In the Doomsday Chamber of Blood match in TNA. Terrible match. I think that's the last match he ever had, and he died.
Oh.
Not a joke, literally. So the APA then come out with Mideon. So we love Mideon as well. So we have 2 teams led by the 2 most Bookly boys ever. And it was bad. Like, really bad. I don't even think you could call it a match. Then the Undertaker walks out, does some spooky stuff, drags out Shane. Shane screaming, "Don't cut me! Don't cut me.
I tell you what, I know you're gonna explain what actually happened, but I'll tell you what was going through my mind when I'm watching this. So the Undertaker comes out and he has Shane by the throat, and Shane's down on his knees, and then the Undertaker says, "I want you to send a message to your father," and the Undertaker starts unbuttoning like the top.
No, he doesn't unbut it. It's Velcro, and you can hear the Velcro.
You can hear
the Velcro. It's really bad.
He starts undoing the top, like up by the chest, the top of his robe. And I swear to God, what went through my mind was, he is going to breastfeed Shane McMahon. And I'm like, what a power move. What an absolute insult to Vince McMahon that you would drag his son onto television and breastfeed him. That's but
you're a sick puppy.
Well, that's not what ended up happening.
No, I mean that would have been something. I think that
wouldn't that have been amazing? If that had happened, we'd still be talking about it.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody would ever forget that. That's something you would never forget. That's actually in that movie Barbarian. That's a scene in Barbarian, literally.
What?
Yeah. This like demon woman starts breastfeeding just along. It's really weird. But no, it turns out he again, what he does kind of has a little less impact than you're expecting, because you're expecting something kind of big, and he does the old Back to the Future too, where he pulls out an envelope. He's like, "Hey, send this." Back to the Future 2. And you think he's going to pull out a gun or something, and it's not. It's just like an envelope.
Gives him the old Fairnophile brown envelope.
Yeah, and you're just kind of like, all right, that's a little bit less impactful than I thought. But anyway, so
it's like, go. Shane, I want you to take this message to your father. I want planning permission for me business.
It's 20 grand. Don't ask any questions. All right, so then The Rock comes out wearing, again, the best Rock outfit ever. I'm sorry, I think he should have just wrestled this all the time. He just looks badass.
This is a boob surgery Rock. God, this is a very boob heavy episode of the Wrestling Rewind.
It's just the time that they shot it in. They shot it in these 3 days, which they're all just, had it on the mind. Now, here's what's interesting, right? So in these 4 weeks, which in reality is about a week for these people because they shot Raw a little bit out from the rest of the 3 shows. There is a fundamental shift actually in the chant, because when we started, the "and millions" wasn't really a thing, and now people are starting to say "and millions," and Jerry the King Lawler is still being a heel. He goes, "And how many, Rock? Tell us." And really, the crowd are starting to say "and millions." So The Rock is getting more and more over.
It's picking up. He's clearly a heel, and this is a crowd that is recognizing that he's a heel, but is chomping at the absolute bit
cheer for him.
Cheer him.
They really
just want
to cheer him. Yeah, like it's so funny, and you can actually see it in his face as well. I'm like replaying it here. He's like, "No, I kind of."
He's trying himself back because he's "No, I'm still a heel.
I'm still a heel." Yeah. And I mean, it's cool to see, because like even in these 3 shows, which for us has been like 5 weeks, but for these guys it's only been like maximum 6 days.
Well, hold on. Let's think about it. So it was a Saturday Night Raw,
which would have been done which would have been done on a block taping on a Monday, right? So that's a Monday, right?
Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and then there was.
So I was thinking it was 4 days, but no, you're right. That would have been pre-taped.
Yeah, that was pre-taped. Yeah.
Saturday Night Raw, Sunday Night Heat, which would have been pre-taped as well on the Monday. Pay-per-view on the Sunday, Raw on the Monday. So yeah, but still, that's 4 shows in about a week.
But even with Mankind, he's losing this going into it, right? But they really selling. They did a spot earlier on where he was trying to climb up a ladder and he couldn't really do it. And I mean,
that actually reminded me of what you were saying earlier about how these, like, back then they didn't take themselves quite as seriously, and I absolutely love that. I love that Mankind was the champion, that Mankind has this reputation as this absolute tough SOB, like shoot him, stab him, throw him off a building, he'll always come back. But when it's not in the ring, he has absolutely no issue like being a goofball.
Yeah, but I mean, that makes him kind of human because you're like, yeah, man, you got kind of battered last night. Like, I mean, you know this from being in the ring, man. Like, you know, or even fighting. Like, you know, it depends what it's been like. There's some days you can't get out of bed, like, you know.
Oh my God,
and the amount of respect you have for people that do anything like this, you're like, it's very easy for some guys on podcasts who've never done anything like that, like any MMA or training.
And I'll tell you,
particularly
with Mankind, see, taking a proper bump in a wrestling ring, I don't think most people realize how much that sucks.
No,
like, that
I'd imagine
sucks.
I'd imagine it wouldn't be fun at all.
See, taking a bump on concrete, take that bump on a wrestling ring and magnify it by 100. It's unreal. Every time you take a bump in a wrestling ring, knocks the wind out of you a little bit. Every time you take a bump on concrete, and I've only done it a handful of times, you lay there wondering, is this the time I've really hurt myself? Is this, because it knocks the air out of you in a totally different way. Like for a second you're laying there and you can't move and you're like, is this it? So I have, like, all the great matches aside, all the great promos aside, the fact that he's by all accounts just a great guy aside, I have the most tremendous amount of respect for Mick Foley.
I mean, look, I can't relate to that. As I said, I've never really been in the ring as such, so like I don't know. But you know, all I can say is when you get kicked, it really hurts.
Yeah.
You know, when you get kicked, it really hurts. When you get punched, it really hurts. You know.
That is coming from a position of knowledge, because as we mentioned last week, our comrade Dara is a red belt. He is our Taekwondo bro.
Yeah, very much so. So one away from black, folks. Which means you fight black belts every week. Not fun. So, you know, nothing but respect for anyone who goes out and do it. And I mean, obviously, that's a bit more controlled than taking bumps off cages and shit. But, you know, I'd imagine when you're doing that, you know, there needs to be a level of respect that just, I think, gets lost in the shovel sometimes on people on podcasts who are like, I bet you can't run up those stairs. I'll run up those stairs and then talk about someone's work rate. You know, it's funny. But
like in terms of like fitness and work rate, Mick Foley went out there and did a 30-minute match.
Yeah.
The longest longest match I've ever had was 10 minutes long. And when the match was over, I rolled out of the ring and I actually rolled under the ring because I thought my heart was going to stop or my lungs were going to burst or I was going to throw up. I was in that stage of panic where you actually can't breathe enough to like, you're so exhausted you can't breathe enough. And that was a 10-minute match I had. So
you know the whole blown out thing, and I know, look, we made fun of Goldberg about it, but I mean, he's a professional. His cardio should be better. Like, there's the thing about ring shape, and it really is a thing.
Yeah.
Like with us, I remember with my grading there, you know, since you brought it up, I had to do 5 rounds of sparring, and they're like 2 to 4 minutes.
Oh.
And after that, you're like, and usually they do 2-on-1 as well, but I didn't have to do it this time, which was good because we were doing breaking, which is breaking boards, like 2 inches of wood, you know. So I mean, after that, you're in bits, you know. And after sparring, you're like, I might get sick, you know. And it's tough, man. I mean, like, you really don't know until you're doing it, right? So, you know, all credit to Foley. I mean, Foley didn't look like the most fit guy in the world, but he really wasn't in bad. Like, you'd hear people talk about him. You watch him now, and he's just, yeah, he doesn't have a 6-pack, but he's not in, bad shape.
He was absolutely not. Like I say, the level of fitness it takes to have any length of a wrestling match, and your point there about ring shape was fantastic. Because see, even when I was training, I'd be there with, you know, my old belly on me and that, but I was training there 2 years at that stage, and we'd have guys come in who were like big gym bros, or guys who could go out and who could run from, you know, Cork to Kinsale and back again, and, you know, barely be out of breath. But see, when they hit that ropes and the rope bounces you back and you're actually running slightly faster than your you're capable of running. You're kind of just keeping up with yourself.
Yeah.
Those guys were dead on their feet in 30 seconds. You know?
I think it's the only kind of.
Oh, it's a very, very specific kind of fitness.
I'd imagine so. Again, look, I have very limited experience with it.
Well, I'd imagine
but,
you have a notion of what it's like with the, with the rounds and fighting. Like a 2-minute round doesn't sound like a lot
until you're in it.
Until you're in
it. And that's something you can't explain to people. You're like, man, 2 minutes is a long.
My MMA fight, my first and last, my 100% victory record MMA fight, I won that in 2 minutes flat. And when I think about it, when I think back to it, that match went on for half an hour. In my
it's a good
head.
fight, though. It's
I
a good
thought
fight. You did great.
I thought it was never going to end.
Martin kills your man, basically.
And
just dominated.
And I'm exhausted. I'm like,
it was great.
Jesus, man, would you go down? I am wrecked punching you.
But I mean, that's the thing, and like obviously, like sparring, even competition sparring, is very different. There's competition, and then there's martial art. Martial art's much more violent. And because no pads, you don't wear pads anywhere. You just sometimes wear a mouth guard, So you just destroy knees and elbows and stuff like that. Like, so it's very different. But competition is like 2-round pads and all that kind of stuff. So it's very different. You're scoring points. You're not actually trying to hurt someone. Martial arts, you're usually trying to like disable someone some way. So they are very different. So 2 minutes can be hell or can be all right, but the actual fitness itself that it takes. I mean, we make jokes about a 2-minute match, but like that the 2-minute wrestling match and a 2-minute fight are different things. And then even 2-minute wrestling match can be very intense depending on what it is. So I mean, it's just kind of, I thought I'd bring that up because when Mick Foley comes out here, he's limping. So they're selling the fact that he is actually hurt here. And it's very rare you'd see Mick Foley actually hurt. You never really see him selling that injury in such a way because he always gives off that invincibility aura. So, they're already selling, look, the deck is stacked against him here. It's a ladder match. He's not really a ladder match kind of guy. But then again, Triple H and The Rock were, the benchmark here in Shawn Michaels. Austin comes out to do commentary. And yeah, I mean, Rock does everything. I do have to say, Rock takes a ladder to the face by accident, and it's the mankiest spot of the whole match, where he hits him with the chair, and the ladder smacks him in the face. And I do not know how he didn't bust his cheek or lose a tooth or something.
There are a couple of great, so apart from like, I'm sure we get like the really big spots.
Yeah, but that was just a little throwaway spot that I had to bring up because it's gas.
There are a couple of those.
Because afterwards he just like, you can see him just going, my face.
But there are a couple of great spots in this match that are like not huge, big moments, but are just really visceral and really vicious. So the first thing I'd say about this is the ladder in this is not the ladder you get in modern matches. Like this,
it's a real ladder. It's a real
scratched
ladder.
And torn.
Yeah.
There's a sticker on the side of it that's half torn off. This is a ladder.
They probably bought it down the road in Lowe's.
They went backstage and they were like, "Oh, hey, does the venue happen to have a ladder?
We can borrow for 20 minutes. We'll bring it back. We swear."
So even just like the little, and they're not little, but like compared to huge spots, even just the little things like The Rock wanging Mankind's knee off it made me wince. Mankind, like you said, smacking The Rock with the chair and the chair hitting him, the ladder hitting him in the face. But even then when he went down, Mankind beating the ladder with the chair. That great, so much of wrestling is sound. That great steel on steel sound. Even though that probably didn't actually hurt that much.
But that's what you want. You don't want them to actually hurt.
Amazing.
You don't want them to actually hurt each other. Like the whole point of wrestling is that they don't really hurt each other that much. It's the show of it.
That steel on steel sounds amazing. Then they batter up out through the audience, and they have they come across the safety railing and the knock safety railing, and
there were callbacks. Sorry, just real quick on that point. Callbacks to the three matches that they've had so far, because they really wanted to sell that this was the last one, and it actually is the last one in this feud where they feud. There's this blood feud. It kind of dissipates after this. They actually did a great and remember, this is a Raw where your matches are 2 minutes, right? They actually did little callbacks to all their matches. So there's little spots that tie back to the Royal Rumble The
Oh,
throwback
yeah.
to Valentine's Day, the throwback to Saturday, Sunday Night Heat. You know, it's really, or the halftime heat. It's actually really, really, really well done. Fair play to them.
Oh, this is a like overall, this is an excellent match. So yeah, so they fight up through the ring and they get thrown into like the safety railing or the safety barricade, and the Rock's lying on it. Mankind drops an elbow on him. Oh, that looks great. And then Mankind gets up and he goes to drop another elbow on, and the Rock moves and just Mick Foley's whole body just comes down on this railing, and it's just like, Jesus, Mick. It is Monday Night Raw. This crowd is so hot. Like, all you have to do is pull the sock out of your pants and they'll go nuts. And you're out here killing yourself. Like, he's just incredible. I love Mick Foley so much.
Oh man, and it's funny you mention it, because that's how the end comes. The end comes where the Rock is going up the ladder. Foley pulls the sock out. He fights the sock off, but it still lands. Mandible claw. He's fading. Paul White then comes out, not the Big Show. Paul White then comes out and actually does the weirdest choke slam I've ever seen. Where
I thought it was amazing.
It is, and that's what he should have always done. It's such a cool way of doing the choke slam, which he never did.
So it's like
a spinning choke slam.
Yeah. So for any listeners who haven't seen it, he grabs Mankind by the throat on the ladder, and then he turns, but he doesn't just turn. As he's turning, he jumps and he spins, and he almost like fires Mankind off at an angle.
I thought he was going to put him through the ring.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I thought he was going to put him through the ring. That was that much force in it, and I'm like, holy hell, that's really impressive. It's the most impressive I've ever seen the Big Show.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
You know, and we will witness the decline of the Big Show over this year, because
and then the rise of the Big Show, and then the decline, of the Big Show.
And then the many heel turns of the Big Show, and then
he's actually, and I don't mean this to sound like a hot take, but earlier, if we go back to the Ministry and Corporation thing, the Undertaker was out there doing his speech. This is before the whole thing with Shane McMahon and all that.
Yes.
And he's out there and he's doing his the darkness will rise and we will take over. And there's boring chants happening in the background. Boring. And you know, the Undertaker is out there, he's doing this sort of meaningless waffle. Oh, it's just getting like big Bray Wyatt vibes off him. And this is like,
say this like
I said, I don't mean this to sound like a hot take, because the Undertaker had an incredible career. Like, if you look at his career as a whole, like, you're talking about Mount Rushmore of wrestling. But my God, that career, if you look at it in detail, had a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys. Like,
well, he was actually going to leave.
A lot of what the Undertaker did was dumb.
He was going to leave at this point. That's why he came back as the American Badass, because he was like, "This is what I want to do. I'm going to do it at WCW, or you can let me do it here."
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because he's out there doing his ministry shtick in the middle of like a really hot crowd. Like this crowd is popping for Jeff Jarrett, and the Undertaker.
It wasn't a good crowd. It wasn't a good crowd to do it in front of. It really wasn't. I mean,
boring chance.
Yeah, it wasn't the right. I mean, that could have been a backstage segment, which should have been. You know, like, there are some cooler ones, and I mean, look, we'll get to it. We'll hold it. We'll get to it. There's a lot to say on that. I don't think now is the time to do it, because there's still more context in it, and I want when it wraps up.
I cannot wait to get into the higher power stuff.
Yeah, that's why I want to hold it to it. So I do agree with you to an extent, but I really want to save it for that episode.
And the only other thing I'd say before, and I'm sorry to interrupt again, the only other thing I'd say before we get to the end is that we skipped over we skipped over a backstage segment after the Intercontinental match.
Okay.
After Val Venis dumped Ryan Shamrock, she was backstage.
No, I said this. She was comforted by Val Venis, and Ken attacked her.
She was comforted by Billy Gunn.
Yeah, and then Ken Shamrock attacked. Yeah.
and then Shamrock attacked him. So it's like, yeah, you can't even talk. So never mind bedding her in a hotel room that's in the arena. You cannot even talk to his sister without him assaulting you. I think he just fancies the sister.
He did date her in real life. She's not really a sister.
Oh my God, that's right. I actually forgot you to. This is so weird. This whole thing.
This whole thing is so weird.
So
this
weird.
wrestling thing is so weird.
It's so...
I like the way that's what you realize, but it was weird. But anyway, so Paul White does the awesome choke slam, and I want you guys to remember that because that's the peak of Big Show's career. It's very important. Remember that. And then
until he came out pretending to be Hulk Hogan, that was pretty good.
Okay, that's pretty good too. That's pretty good as well. I'll give you that one. And then obviously, Mankind loses because the deck has been stacked against him. He's injured, and he just got literally choke slammed to hell. Like, I mean, no one's getting up from that.
Legitimately, like that looks salad. One of the best choke slams ever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I wasn't joking that it's the highlight of his career. I'm like, I mean, that's not a bad thing. Like, that is legitimately one of the best choke slams I have ever seen. And if that had been his finisher the whole time, and no one
he should have. Yeah, and because what happened was he ended up, and I'm not saying wrestlers shouldn't be safe, but the problem with the Big Show later in his career was that he used to do these choke slams where he'd get them up really impressively high, and then he'd like gently put them down, or he'd like bend over with his hand on their back and put them down.
No, I mean, you need to bury them. Like, you need to absolutely, and I don't mind,
spin and turn.
Yeah, I mean, the slam it's in the name. Like, if that's your finisher, do the slam, and there are safer ways to take it, tables or whatever, breaking it. But I mean, the way Mick Foley was able to take it as well, so it was probably really safe. But still, man, I mean, it looked really impressive, and I think the Big Show, and also, not getting too much into it, but when Big Show start doing the punch and start doing the final cut, they just don't have the same impact as the showstopper.
Alley-oop and all that.
Yeah, it's terrible, just terrible. But anyway, Rock gets the win. Crowd isn't happy. They still kind of pop a little bit, but they're not happy. And then Austin comes in and does the Stone Cold Stunner.
A Stone Cold Mankind WrestleMania would have been pretty cool, like that.
But I don't think it would have.
No, it's not.
It's not like. In hindsight,
you got the biggest heel and the biggest baby face. Like that's WrestleMania,
In hindsight, I would have rather had Mankind versus The Rock. In hindsight,
but they'd already had
that's what I'm saying.
Matches. That's
what I'm saying. If that should have been the WrestleMania feud, but the real overall arching feud was Austin overcoming McMahon. So they kind of had to do what they had to do. Now, if you watched it on the network, you got something which I didn't realize was a thing until just now.
I actually have notes about this as well.
Yeah, this is something new that just happened, so I just figured this out.
What was it they called it?
Extra
attitude.
So this is something that we've never seen before, folks.
Oh.
And it's just appeared randomly on this episode.
This is like the only time, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I guess we're going to have to keep track of it now when we're watching next week's one. But obviously, so we've heard tales for years that, I mean, if you've been to Raw tapings, they do stuff after the main event happens. It's usually a match or a promo or something. But there were tales of them doing this all the way back in the 90s. So, you get weird stories like the spinneroonies and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, this is just Austin, celebrating with the beer and, messing with The Rock. And then it's weird because The Rock starts taunting him with beers, and then it just leads to obviously what it is, where he gets stunned to hell. What it is. But what did you make of The Rock's promo before he got obviously stunned to hell, and then Foley with his mask off, which is very weird. You never really see it that much.
Do you know what I loved about it?
What?
So The Rock's doing his promo
because it's completely out of character. Like, Foley just lost the belt, and he's in there with a beer with The Rock.
But sure, it's all out of character. Like, so this is. Like, it's a classic WWF, WWE. Once the camera's off, they do stuff to send the crowd home happy, even if
what it was. Yeah,
this
is exactly what it was.
canon.
Like, Austin is absolutely peeing himself in the corner, like when Foley puts the mandible
This
claw
is like
on.
it reminded me a little bit of. So there's like a real famous sort of after Raw segment where they got wrestlers out, Kane and
to do the spinneroonie.
the Undertaker, and they were trying to get them all to do the spinneroonie.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't happen on the show, but it's it's something for the fans. Do you know what I loved about this? So so The Rock was like, "Oh, I just want to share a beer with you, Austin, before you go 1-on-1 with the Great One," and then Mankind's like, "I'll have a beer too," blah blah. There was actually a great moment where the three of them's in the ring.
Yeah.
And the three of them have their beers.
Yeah.
And they're all going in for like the sláinte, the cheers, right? But none of them trust the other one.
Yeah.
So they're like edging in, like inch by inch, but with their arms outstretched with the beers. It looks like a Mexican standoff.
And then The Rock is the first one to turn and get stunned.
It's fantastic.
What I loved about it is
I loved that.
What I loved about it as well is like you can tell that Austin and Mick are like legit friends throughout the whole time, which is why it wouldn't have worked in the main event, because you're like they legitimately like each other.
because everyone would want Austin to win, but
no one wants Foley to lose.
Mick to lose, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, like that's why he never had that match at WrestleMania, because it's like no one in this arena wants you to lose. Nobody at home wants you to lose as much as you want Austin to win. It's there you go. That's kayfabe. Vince McMahon, he should have just done that. That would have been your win. You had the answer the whole time.
There was two other great moments that happened in this Attitude Extra. One of them was
other way around. Extra attitude.
Apologies for that. And we go to great lengths here at Wrestling Rewind to make sure that all our information is comes from 3 independent sources.
Exactly. It's NewsGuard certified. It's NewsGuard certified and everything.
I apologize. We're not INM here. We're real news.
Real
so there's a great bit where The Rock and Austin are like, it's almost like, do you know the Superpowers Collide, where they're Hogan and Macho Man are like inches away from shaking hands, and their hands are shaking and all that. Austin and Rock are like inches away from touching beers, from cheers and beers, and it's like, but everyone who has a beer with Austin gets stunned, and all you hear is this one guy in the crowd going, "Don't do it, Rock! Don't do it! Don't do it, Rock!"
I didn't hear that. My dog agrees. Oh, that's Poppy.
I absolutely love that. And then the other thing that popped me was, this is one of the rare, maybe the only time I've ever seen it, where the guy, don't do it, Rock. He's going to stun you. Have you never seen wrestling?
Totally believes it's real and everything.
Have you never seen wrestling? But yeah, so later on, one of the other things that popped me was, this is very rare, possibly the only time I've ever seen it, where Austin's in the ring, he's doing his drinking beers and fingering the crowd. Well, you know what I mean.
Oh, Jesus.
You know what I mean.
That's a different show.
He's in his drinking beers and giving the crowd the finger.
There you go.
And your man's throwing beers into the ring, and he drops one of them.
It's very rare, yeah.
He doesn't catch it. He jumps up, he puts the arm up to catch it, and he fumbles it and he drops it. And I was like, oh! 36 years of watching wrestling, I'm so jaded. Something new. Oh!
So I just saw here on Facebook, shout out to Irish Wrestling Forum. The lads there are pretty good. Actually, Martin, I think that's where we recruited you from.
That is where we met before I left in disgrace after one particularly drunken night when I went on and tried to argue something nonsense and fell out with everybody. Dickhead.
Sure. Look, we've all made mistakes. But there's a good post there that says, today's wrestling fans will never understand what WWE was like in the 90s, and it's just a sea of signs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true. And I mean, the thing about it is, that's one of the great things about doing this show.
And the best thing is that none of the signs are people advertising their own goddamn podcast.
No, they're usually...
they're about the actual wrestling.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that you can't repeat anymore because you get cancelled. But
I'm telling you, Dara, there is money to be made in our signs of 90s wrestling book. Just a picture book with just.
we'd have to use pseudonyms though, because you don't want when you Google your name to get the signs of, such and such is the F word. Such and such is this, that, and the other. It's.
I mean, the tamest version I can think of is what was the one we had a couple of weeks ago? Road Dogs in the ring doing the "oh, you didn't know," and all you can see in the background is someone holding up a sign saying, "Hey, Road Dog, did you know you're white?"
Or such and such is gay.
Or all the synonyms for gay, or
Yeah. Or what's another one? F.U. China. Just randomly.
Or all oh my god, all just the thirst traps.
The thirst traps then, yeah. Sable.
Oh yeah. Hey Sable.
Come over here and spell.
Let me motorboat you, as if Sable was gonna see that and go,
yeah. Just.
Although what I will say is, as I mentioned earlier, folks, I did just to preserve the journalistic integrity of the show, I did check out Sable's play-by-shoot. It is very tastefully done. She's a very well kept together lady.
So now we know what. And
highly recommend you all take a look at it.
And her wrestling ability is intact?
Worse than mine.
Okay.
Worse than mine.
Worse
than mine. Although she is much more trimmed and manicured than I am.
Fair.
I got a kind of a wild bush thing going on.
Oh my god.
She has a sort of a kind of like a lightning bolt or a landing strip.
Well, folks, this is why you listen to the podcast. And if you're wondering why the show has weird edits, you're not listening to the podcast. Well, now you know, because I have to edit the show, so we don't get in trouble. So, yes, folks, if you want to listen to the show completely unedited, where you get to hear our nonsense for longer periods of time about stuff that probably would get us kicked off, you can find it over on nerdtoknowmedia.com, thewrestlingrewind.com, the True Penny channel, where James has to deal with it. Poor James, sorry man. And but hey, it's all in jest, it's all in fun. We all have a good time. We all go home happy. And again, this happened 20 years ago, and we didn't write any of it. So I was 8.
Exactly.
Martin, you were probably
I'm sure
7
the
or 8.
lightning strip isn't
or older. Are you a little older than me? You're a little bit older than me, aren't you? Like 2 years?
I'm 36.
Oh yes, you're 2 years older than me. So you'd be like 10. I was 8. You were 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, we were kids. We watched it. It didn't do us any harm. Well, I mean, that's arguable, but it's all fine. Just don't watch WCW in 2000, because that still does you harm.
Oh yeah, that did me harm. At 36 years of age, that did me harm.
We're still not over that. Like, we covered it a year ago.
I'm convinced if you did like a study of all the school shooters over the past 10 years, every single one of them would have been brought up with 2000s WCW.
What about the ones that happened before 2000 to WCW?
They were brought up with all Japan death matches.
We're going to leave it there. So, Martin, before we go, while we wait for CM Punk to finally accept your challenge, now that he is open for taking bookings, seems like he's open now. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Where can people find you? What have you got to plug?
Well, I'd say so. Here's the thing, Dara. We have a decision to make here. Once you get this Patreon open and the thousands and thousands of euros start to flow in, do we buy St. Valentine Massacre domain, or do we book CM Punk in an MMA fight?
We do both, and we call it St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Oh my holy God. This is why Dara is the brains of the operation.
Here we go. I mean, it writes itself. You know, even if it's on if it's in November, we still call it that anyway.
So the only thing I want to plug, and it's only because, like I was saying earlier, I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, couldn't sleep.
I know what this is. The minute I saw it, I was going to tag you, and then I realized it was you. Go on.
Couldn't figure out why I couldn't sleep, because normally I lay into the last minute, but my body woke me up. It knew something. It knew something was in the air. So I lifted my old phone and I opened it up and said, sure, look, I'll scroll for a while. Maybe something will bore me. I'll fall back asleep. Certainly there could be nothing on the phone at this time of day that would raise my blood pressure and put me into an absolute frenzy of excitement. And wasn't I a fool? Supergiant Games have announced that they are currently in the process of making Hades 2, sequel to one of the best games I have. And 36 years old, I grew up with Ocarina of Time. I grew up with the original Smash Brothers, Mario 64, Conker's Bad 4 Day, Jet Force Gemini, all the insane, classic, amazing games you can think of. Hades is one of my top 3 games ever, and it is getting a sequel. And if I was any more excited, it would be considered a mental illness.
Well, I saw it. As I said, I was going to tag you in it, but then I'm like, oh, he's posted it. So there's nobody more happy than I was to see it. So fair play. I'm looking forward to playing it. I really, really enjoyed the first one. Still enjoyed the first one, actually. So that's going to be cool. I don't really have anything to plug. I'm going to try and endeavor to finally get around to setting up the Patreon. We're going to totally do Brawl for All over Christmas. I'm just going to have a look at the calendar here. Actually, yeah, we could probably do it Christmas week, actually, because I'm off Christmas week. So.
Tell you what, Dara. Tell you what.
What?
Let's put a number on it. What do you think is, in terms of Patreon submissions, what do you think is achievable, like realistic?
I don't know.
Like, right. Let me say this. If we get, once Dara gets it set up, if we get 100 Patreon subscribers, right, we'll review Brawl for All, and then me and Dara will have a fight.
We're going to do Brawl for All anyway.
We're going to do Brawl for All, and then we're going to record me and Dara having a fight, and it's going to go up on Patreon.
See, the moral of the story with Brawl for All is you don't do real fights because you can't rig them. That's the lesson we're going to teach people, Martin.
Yeah, we're going to teach them that through our hubris by having a real fight and it being a disaster and me and you falling out and the podcast ending.
Now you're giving people encouragement. They're like, finally, we get rid of these idiots.
Yeah, exactly. Subscribe.
No. But we will, for a Christmas present, we will do the Brawl for All. We're going to do an end of the year show. And it's kind of weird because we don't really cover modern wrestling, so I don't know how. Tell you what we'll do. We do an end of year show for 9. No, we can't do it actually.
No, man.
No, we can't.
So
what we'll do is
we're still wrestling fans, so we might not cover everything for the show, but I watch most things, and
it's true. Martin does.
I have a lot to say.
That's true, and we will try to get James on as well because he does come on every year around this time to talk about stuff. So,
and I do like talking to James. He's
James is a
nice
good guy. James is a really good guy. So look, we have a couple of things coming up. As I said, it's getting to that silly season where people are off work and stuff like that. So we'll try to pump out more content. And we'll be back next week. Again, this is a super long show, so if you guys are just listening to the Phoenix 7 version, you've missed a lot of show. Go over and get the unedited version.
Most of it libelous.
You said it, not me. So yeah, that's all there, so you guys can check out completely unedited, and we'll be back next week here on Phoenix FM. And go over to WrestlingRewind.com, check out our show. Bye guys.
Keep on rolling.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.